You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
Maria Menounos and Bing.com present live from the Kari Feinstein Oscar Style Lounge at the world-famous Mondrian Hotel on Sunset Blvd in Los Angeles, California. And streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies, this is AFTERBUZZ TV's Movie Edition. Tonight's AFTERBUZZ movie is My Week with Marilyn. We'll break down everything from the making of My Week with Marilyn to behind the scenes and everything in between. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite movie. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's My Week with Marilyn.
Well, hello and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV, everyone. We are live at the Kari Feinstein Oscar Style Lounge, and I'm Jacke Miranne, joined by a fabulous panel of co-hosts. To close things out here before those Oscars get underway, let me introduce my ladies who are talking about My Week with Marilyn with me today. We have Courtney Stewart.
Hello, everybody.
We have Bethany Geaber. Hi. And Katherine Tulich.
Hi.
And we have so much to talk about. The iconic Marilyn, of course. Anything about Marilyn is going to be fabulous, but we're going to break it all down. But first, I want to share with you a little secret, my best little Marilyn impression. How do we get these host-worthy white teeth? Rembrandt, of course. I just had to share that with you because we encountered it here at the Style Lounge, and I don't know if you knew this, but they are the first whitening company. They were the first ones.
I had no idea.
And now they have a 2-hour whitening kit, which is perfect.
That sounds great.
For right before the Style Lounge. See?
Style Lounge, and then red carpet on Sunday.
Red carpet ready, perfect in time for the Oscars.
That's right.
Now, speaking of the Oscars, of course, the fabulous My Week with Marilyn, nominated, of course, for acting of all the 2 acting categories, Michelle Williams and Kenneth Branagh.
Yes.
But I think there's a lot to talk about besides those 2 standouts. Of course, they, to me, are a huge part of the movie, but just initially, what was your standout? What made you guys, we're all super fans here, what made you fall in love with Marilyn again?
Well, I think the fact that this was based supposedly on a true story, although that's been debated whether all this actually happened.
Right.
But I love the fact that it sort of showed another side of Marilyn, and also just I think just a piece of movie history. I mean, if you've ever seen, I've seen The Prince and the Showgirl, and just to sort of see the story behind it, just to see some of these great actors, that. Imagine what it would have been like to be on the set of this incredible film. I just thought it was wonderful.
I've said this before with other biopics, but sometimes I'm offended by biopics because they try to cram the entirety of somebody's life in an hour and a half, as if a moment isn't good enough, as if their essence isn't enough. And what this week quite literally, what it does is say, a week's good enough for me. We can spend a week with Marilyn and capture who she is and experience that. And I mean, not a lot happens in the film, and that's kind of why I love it.
Well, the #1 thing, and I definitely want to get your favorite one, but the #1 thing they say is that it's not a biopic. They don't want people to think it's a biopic because it's all about a snapshot into her life. And I love what you said. I totally agree. You feel like they recreated like a way of taking you on the set and watching a movie get made. I think Simon Curtis, the director, said it's like watching a movie within a movie. Yes. And I totally agree with you. That was my favorite thing about it too, is the way they recreated the performances and everything. And obviously we'll talk about Michelle Williams on that. But Courtney, what did you think? What was your...
I just felt so drawn to it. Obviously, I'm a Marilyn fan starting out. I've watched her since I was a kid. My mom loved old movies. So it was exciting to go see this, and also to see, similar to what you were mentioning, all these 20th century like iconic figures, sort of how their lives cross paths at this time, like Vivien Leigh and Gone with the Wind history, and then there's Arthur Miller, who's her husband at the time, and even though we only got a glimpse of him a little bit in the movie, like it's just amazing to sort of imagine all the things that went on with all these people interacting at the same time and going, and we weren't there and we didn't get to see it, but it was nice to sort of live in that fantasy for a little while. So that's what kind of draws me to this movie.
Yeah, and it's so funny that you say that because it's these iconic people like that. Okay, you're not going to be able to perfectly recreate them. Like, okay, I never expected Michelle Williams to look exactly like Marilyn Monroe. She's probably one of the most photographed women of all time. Like, you're never going to get, you know, some people had mixed reactions about Michelle Williams and, you know, these people pinpointing these real life people. But what I think she did so well is, and all of them really as a cast, is they captured the essence of what you would picture them to be like. You truly felt like you were taken back to that set, to something that truly happened. Like, that's what I felt like. Even if they weren't exactly that person,
I know.
the essence is what was more important.
I think that's what's so brilliant about Michelle's performance is because, you know, if you've ever seen Michelle in real life, she's tiny, like super, probably size 0 tiny, and what Marilyn was a supposedly size 16, a very voluptuous woman. So you think just physically, how could she possibly do this role? And yet I forgot about that. You know, I didn't sort of start comparing at all. I thought that Michelle did such a beautiful job of capturing what you were saying, the essence of Marilyn, that I stopped comparing whether she looked exactly like her, whether she was, you know, and I thought that was the brilliance of this performance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you interviewed her in the past, right? So I know you're going to share some great insight on that. But first, just how, I know you mentioned the books, and maybe not everybody's familiar with how this came about, that it is a true story. Obviously, they say that in the opening scene, so this is their story. But how it came about, believe it or not, this took 7 years to make this movie happen. That's amazing how much time goes into one work and how much it must have meant to Simon Curtis, obviously, his directorial debut, you know, the producers and Harvey Weinstein finally jumping in. But it's amazing to hear what they went through, obviously based on 2 books by Colin Clark, My Week with Marilyn, and The Prince, the Showgirl, and Me, I believe. And they actually negotiated They had to spend 18 months just getting the rights to document both stories, and they put them together. And I believe they had to get development funding in the beginning from BBC and UK Film Council, and then it's still years went by before they found their true financing. And their Marilyn, of course, like that would be the biggest thing. Who's going to be Marilyn Monroe? And funnily enough, they finally got the go-ahead because Harvey Weinstein wanted to work with Michelle Williams again, and it took her years to actually say yes to this, and Blue Valentine got in the way. And then Blue Valentine is what made this happen because he worked with her on Blue Valentine and he wanted to work with her again, and so they both signed on and it was a go. And I think that's pretty interesting that there was so much back and forth, but they fought for this and they made it happen. And even though he gave a go-ahead, the budget of this film was very, very small. And what they made happen, and we're going to talk about the visual aspects, the audio and everything and the lighting and directing, how they made that all happen on such a small budget, like $10 million budget, that you don't think about that. But to know that and then know what they put together, to me, that's like an amazing feat.
I think a big key is that actors like Michelle Williams, and we just did The Descendants, and it's great that actors like Michelle Williams and George Clooney, who only took scale for The Descendants, and Michelle Williams, I'm sure, just took and Kenneth Branagh just took a small amount, and that's what's so great about actors like this, that they can make a film at a small budget because they're not demanding their multi-million-dollar salaries. And I love actors like that because it's all about the role, it's all about the quality of the film, which is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about the acting, because obviously, as I said, they're getting tremendous accolades, especially Michelle Williams and Kenneth Branagh, but I'm sorry, even down to Dame Judi Dench. I mean, another friend of Harvey Weinstein, but she was fantastic.
I loved her. I know.
What stood out for you guys, and I know you have some inside scoop for us on Michelle Williams and you know how the cast came about. But what did you guys think of the cast here?
I'm sorry. Oh, okay. I adored the cast for the most part. I was a little bit put off by the casting for Vivien Leigh, which was Julia Ormond.
Yeah.
But I just wanted a little bit more from that, because for me, Vivien Leigh is, even though she's supposed to be aged at that point, and you're supposed to sort of see that in the character. I didn't feel there was something a little bit not quite as powerful as I would have liked in that character.
Yeah, I have to agree with you with that. She was the one little point in the film that I wasn't. I think because I had this amazing image of Vivien Leigh.
Yes, exactly.
And she didn't quite live up to it for me.
I'm almost curious how much of the relationship between Vivien and Sir Lawrence was actually cut out of the film.
That is
because I think for me part of the gap was like, I know this story is supposed to thread, but I didn't actually feel it come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
Right.
And so
Their relationship.
Their relationship, that B storyline in general.
Yes.
Or maybe it was a C storyline. Again, because I can't really tell. I feel like in the editing she got something happened there.
Well, I mean, I think Vivien Leigh in real life was a very complex character and suffered from depression, and I mean they had a very tumultuous marriage, and obviously, you know, the thing that's pointed out in this film is, I mean, she's only 43, which now for an actress is nothing, but back then
that's what she ends for you.
she already is feeling like her past it, you know, and there's that scene where basically she says, my husband has said I'm too old for this, so you know, and I mean, and she does, and there's that other scene where, you know, she sort of takes him down in the screening room saying, you know, I hope Marilyn gives you hell. So you can kind of see that their marriage is either falling apart at this point or very, very, I think, even in just those small key scenes, you know, and I mean, two huge egos there too, because, you know, it's Laurence Olivier and Vivien Leigh. We're like the Brangelina.
Exactly. And I feel like that's exactly, you touched on exactly what I was thinking. I felt like I didn't get enough of her ego. Like, she was a little too broken down and subdued for, because I would imagine at that point she was feeling pretty crappy, but at the same time her ego was pretty big, and you would have felt that energy of there should have been some fight, I think.
Did we want Gone with the Wind? Is that what we wanted?
Not
we wanted
quite.
to be like,
but
I will not surrender.
Because having been like iconically beautiful, iconically talented, like I felt like there just could have been a little more. Not that she was bad, but the character.
The issue with the way the story played out, or Julia Ormond herself? Because did you know that originally they tapped Catherine Zeta-Jones for that role?
Oh.
And I wonder what a difference that might have made.
I think she might have had the fire that we
She
needed.
has the fire, exactly.
Yeah, I think that might have been better casting. No offense to Julia Ormond, but
I think she's fabulous.
Yeah.
But when I saw that, I was like,
Yes. I think I would have bought into that more. Her energy is a little bit, she's got that flame in her that would have been a little bit more darted.
I think we need a bit of that Welsh fire in there.
But also in our mind, we picture her as a star. Whereas, although, you know, Julia's beloved, I don't know if we necessarily in America are like, oh yes. and similar to the Iron Lady, they were like, we need to get a star to play Margaret Thatcher. Because either iconically it doesn't match up. So maybe that was part of it. Iconically it just didn't match our imagination.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, well, sadly at the time it was when Michael Douglas was battling his cancer, and that's why she couldn't do it. But I wonder what that would have done if it were her. But
it would have gave us something else to talk about.
Something to think about. But I mean, honestly, for me, Michelle Williams, I have to say, I was back when I first watched it. I am someone who idealizes Marilyn Monroe. I've read millions of books on her. I love her. And I fell into at first, the frame of thinking, like, could she really pull off such an iconic figure? But then as I watched her, the way I was able to get swept into it through her, to me, and forget I was watching her, to me is what made that a worthy nominated performance by Michelle Williams, because I feel like from the fact that she did all of her own singing and dancing to, you know, working with a choreographer to perfect the walk, to the soft talking, and portraying so many different Marilyns. She portrayed the public, the private, you know, what we think she was like behind the scenes, and, you know, I think she
Plus
really
the role that she had to play in Prince and the Showgirl.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
absolutely. I think she really nailed it. I think she's deserving of the Oscar.
Well, just the preparation. I mean, when I spoke to her, I mean, you know, she literally spent 10 to 12 months preparing for this role. I mean, she lived Marilyn. She said she woke up. Well, she said first of all, you know, she grew up with a poster of Marilyn on her wall. So
could you imagine that? Growing up with a poster and then getting the
Then
chance
you're
to play
that.
her.
I know,
Exactly.
I know. But she just totally absorbed Marilyn. Said she woke up every morning, she'd start playing her songs. So she would listen to her music. She said she read every book that she could ever read. And at night she'd watch every film. So she said she completely lived with Marilyn, totally absorbed her. And she said that for her it had to start externally. She said because she realized that that's the biggest difference between them, because physically they were so different.
Right.
So she had to work on all that part of her movement and everything first, because she said when she got on set, she wanted to feel completely comfortable being Marilyn. So she had to work on the physical part first, and then be so comfortable in that, then work on the interior part of Marilyn. And she also said that the thing she realized in her research is that really Marilyn was a character, and which I think we see in this film, that Norma Jean Baker was the real person.
Right.
Marilyn Monroe was a character that she always played. And there's even a little scene in the movie when she says, "Should
Shall
I do
it?"
Right.
I love that.
So
Just that
telling,
little-
right? Just that one
little-
line.
I love
just
that
little
line.
key, yeah. Yeah.
And that's amazing. You know, it's also, I read that they wanted to keep it true to 1956, which is when she went to work there on this film, but also they wanted it to feel modern at the same time. And I got that. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like you were taken back there, but it didn't feel like so perfectly recreated that it felt like it still felt fresh. I think everything about this was like this fresh, their whole thing was like getting a fresh take on her. Even the writer said it was about humanizing her and making her come to life through this one snapshot of time. And I feel like that London airport scene especially, like, how
It like
loved
takes
it.
my breath away, because I love the coming off the plane and the glasses and just the way that the coat was on her shoulder and the detail that went into that. And I read a lot about the costume design and all of those things, and how she was thinking about the fabrics and how different they are now, and that trying to find the lush fabrics. Jill Taylor was a costume designer, and trying to find the right fabrics for that scene to make the clothing look perfectly lush and delicious coming off this airport, and so glamorous. But they pulled it off in that soft light that it goes into, and it kind of melts her into this crowd of people, and it almost is like how she gets lost in the character that is Marilyn. It was just such a great
That was my favorite scene.
One of the things that the filmmaker and the writer does is that they, along with the other characters, we are made to wait and anticipate her arrival. So it creates this really lovely build. We're like, when is she coming? When is she coming? For a good whole portion of the first act. And so we're swept up in that. So when that reveal happens at the top, it's just an excellent dramatic device.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you guys realize this, but speaking of the costume and everything, do you know that the dress she wore, so they only could afford to recreate one dress, and she had to wear that same white dress for the set of The Prince and the Showgirl.
11 days.
11 days or 12 days straight, and the zipper broke on the 4th day, and they had to sew her in every single day.
I have been there. I have been sewn into costumes before.
It's not fun.
No, it's not fun.
Especially when you have to go to the bathroom.
For me, it was like a giant period piece, like with the petticoat and everything, and they missed the buttons that day. So every time I had to go to the bathroom, I was escorted. It's not fun.
Yeah,
I can empathize with that. Yeah, it's rough being an actress.
Yes, it's rough.
I know.
I'm teasing.
And poor Jill Taylor must have had a heart attack every single day praying nothing
my
happened to
gosh.
that dress, because it wasn't done shooting. So
These are things
kudos
guys
to
don't
them.
have to worry about. You know, like Kenneth probably just showed up on set, had a suit, and was like, all right, let's do it. Yeah.
Well,
No, I
There you
think
go.
he still got very much, Kenneth Branagh still very much had to think about the physical aspect. I think he wore a little prosthetic,
A little bit for the make
chin,
the chin.
the hair had to be very severely parted, the eyebrows were a certain way. So I think he had to still think about things like
Think
that as
of it a
well.
little bit, yeah,
but
for
I
sure.
love that piece of casting, because I remember when Kenneth Branagh first sort of hit it big, you know, and he was kind of lauded as this the new Olivier.
Yes.
And you know, because he was doing the Shakespeare, he was doing the directing, and I just thought I loved when I heard that he was playing Larry Olivier. It was like
It's such perfect inspirational
Perfect.
stories. Like Michelle has Marilyn on her wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Kenneth Branagh's been compared to Olivier his
And
entire
he-
career.
Yeah.
And
When he
now
was
they
younger,
all-
he wrote a letter to him, and
Yes.
he wrote back, and he kept it,
Yeah.
and then he gets the chance to play him.
It's
This is
amazing.
the two of them actually had these amazing like childhood dream story things happening for them, which
Exactly.
is
Crazy
makes
how the
you think-
universe lines up.
Right, and how much they must have, not only how much pressure, but also how much of a dream come true. Like these are probably their dream roles, and then
sure.
also the pressure though too,
Yeah.
to live up to that.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you're idealizing them as much as everybody else in the world.
Absolutely.
What did you guys think of Eddie Redmayne playing Colin Clark? Because he doesn't get talked about as much.
No, he's sort of, I guess he's sort of the one, he's in, the film is really his story.
Right, and that's
But-
what's funny, he's not getting that much attention.
No.
Because we are experiencing the story through
man,
him.
yeah.
So we just kind of, we feel as if we are him, so we kind of just ignore
Exactly.
it. And,
He's
and
our
that's
vehicle.
terrible to say, but
And
I
also,
feel like
it's
it
not
happens.
a showy role. I mean, obviously, you know, Marilyn and Laurence Olivier or even Dame Judi Dench's roles are very kind of showy and actorly as they should be because they're, whereas his role is very much, you know, much more of a subdued sort of role. So yeah, he's unfortunately.
And he was able to bring some charm and
Yes.
some
Yeah.
kindness, and it was nice to see that. For me, he didn't completely melt into the background, which was nice.
Yeah.
But he was able. It was sort of almost a commentary on what that situation would have been anyway.
Yes.
He would have been just sort of that vehicle through which everybody was dealing with and having to trying to help along the process, and those were the large figures that he was just trying to be the vehicle to make sure they get to what they need to get done and all of that. So he brought some kindness and some good moments, I think, in the film. But
I like the beginning of the film where it shows how ambitious he was and clever.
Right.
You know, it's like he's just sitting there. He's determined to get the job. And you know, when he asked, I think the guy asked him for Noel Coward's number. I like those parts. I
It
think that
makes you
kind of
root
really
for
shows.
him, right? I love it too.
I like the scarf moment when Judi Dench like brings
That
him the
is one of my
scarf in the
favorite
car,
moments.
and it's so cute because it speaks. I've been a PA, so I know what that's like. And he was just sitting out there, still about his business, still about his work, and that was just a really sweet moment that they had in the film.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Can we talk about Judi Dench for a second? Because another friend of Harvey that kind of just did the film sort of, not as a favor because she got a great role, but she's somebody who I think could have had a nod, you know, as far as, you know, an award, because I think there was just, she was one of my favorite characters. Moments like that with the scarf, or the way she stuck up for, not even stuck up for Marilyn, but tried to bridge the two. She just embodied that role so well for me. I love Judi Dench.
I know, I love that role with Sybil Thorndike, like the character she's playing, Sybil
Right.
Thorndike. I just this sort of, she just calms everyone. She's the grand dame of the set.
Right.
And I don't know if Sybil Thorndike was really like that, but I'd love to imagine that that's how she really was. And the fact that she just had the right words to say at the right time. And I just, not to sadden the mood, but Judi Dench is now not able to read scripts. I don't know if you heard this. She's suffering from macular degeneration, so she's announced that she can no longer read scripts. So not to sadden everyone, but just the fact that, you know, this great actress, you know.
Well, even more
she's
so.
still bringing
even
it.
more so. That's just that makes me happy to know that I loved this performance by her then, and I didn't know that. So
I think we have a vendor.
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome.
Joining us. Hello.
So you are with Big Chief.
Yes, I am.
Welcome.
Thank
Are
you.
you a My Week with Marilyn fan? Just say yes.
Yes, I am. I love
But tell us about Big Chief. We want to know what's going on here. As at the gift suites, there's all sorts of good stuff, as we know.
it. Well, Big Chief is it's a new denim and t-shirt line.
Very nice.
It's a lot of hand done things, a lot of details.
Can I take a
Pull
look?
those out.
Please do. I'll show you some of them.
Fabulous. I would put them on right now, but
Oh.
I don't think that would go over well. Ooh, it's so soft.
Oh yeah, take
thank
these
you.
t-shirts out. Let's lay
There's
these out.
Yeah, there's a lot of details. If you see, a lot of the girls like the cowgirl pin-up in here in the lining. It's kind of cute.
Check it out. It's
Oh,
kind of
that's
Marilyn-esque.
very Marilyn.
Little pin-up action.
Very nice.
Oh, I love that.
Thank
that
you.
makes it unique.
Thanks. I'll show you. My family, I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I design from Pittsburgh and manufacture here. Everything we make is made in USA. But just to show you the kind of details we have, my family all worked in the steel mills in Pittsburgh. So all of the metal in the jeans is actually found materials from old steel mills in Pittsburgh.
Wow.
And
That's
a
very
metal
cool.
artisan from Pittsburgh made all these. He hand forged them with a sledgehammer and
Really?
sparks and everything. Yeah.
That's actually, can you guys see that? That's gorgeous.
Very nice details.
Thank you. Thanks. You like the red pocket?
I love this.
Love it.
Kind of a neat
very
brand
different.
identifier.
Oh, that's
I like
you.
it.
a great way to put the logo.
Thank you.
And the inner lining usually, it's all in the details. it looks
Yes,
like.
yes.
Do you do jeans for men and women?
Yes, yes, they are.
And what about the t-shirts? T-shirts are always fun.
Yeah, the T-shirts. I've always tried to design with things that were kind of close to my heart and things that have meaning to me. Every once in a while, though, you have to do something that's just kind of fun and cute. You know, so that's just something fun and cute.
Absolutely.
love it.
We love fun and cute. That's why we love
Love and fun
Marilyn.
and cute.
But that's great. So where can we find them?
You know, we're just starting to line out. We're at Fred Siegel right now in Melrose, and so we're going to kind of start there and work our way out, I think.
That
Sounds like a
that's
great
good
plan.
place to start.
I think so.
That's not
Yeah.
a bad place.
My first line I sold, the first place I ever went to was Barney's, New York. I just walked in with a T-shirt and sold the line there. So I thought maybe it's a good strategy to just have Barney's and Fred Siegel and
Yeah.
then work your way
Can't
around.
argue with that.
I think a lot of people would be happy to be part of that.
Yeah.
For certain.
And do you have a website?
Yes, we do. It's bigchief.us.
Excellent.
Bigchief.us.
Well, thank you
Thank
for
you.
my gift. No,
Please keep them. Well, that's
T-shirts? I love green.
I love t-shirts.
Yeah, you guys can fight over the. I have to take these though.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
Chief.us.
There we go.
I got my t-shirt.
Great.
No. I had my eye on this one.
Courtney and I, we don't share. We just go right.
That's all right. They wouldn't fit me anyway.
Okay, I'm totally all right.
It was a medium. It was my size. It was in front of me. It had to happen.
It's all
But
good.
seriously, did you see the pinup lining? I mean, that was so.
Yeah.
It couldn't be more Marilyn-like.
Exactly.
Marilyn loves comfort in her
in
fashion.
the Misfits.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's so funny. After I saw this movie, and I didn't even read yet that she was more of a like they called her the Calvin Klein girl before there was Calvin Klein. I feel like I was inspired by her fashion, and I didn't even realize it because of the way I dressed for the airport. Like a couple of days later, I
Really?
looked back on the photos of the film, and then I looked at my outfit, and I was like, "Oh, see that? It
I
affects you,
felt
and you
it.
don't even realize it."
It seeps in. The art seeps in.
It
every
does.
way. Yes,
And
it
speaking
does.
of the art, they filmed at so many amazing locations, and everything that you are paying attention to the story, but you don't even realize these genuine locations that they had. I mean, they had to again pull strings. The red
Yeah.
tape disappears, and they're filming on a $10 million budget at Windsor Castle, Eton College. I mean, how does that happen?
And the Pinewood Studios where
How
the Prince
does
and the
that happen?
Showgirl was actually
That was
filmed.
amazing. She's in the actual dressing room that
Yes.
Marilyn used.
That is extraordinary. And I think she filmed in the actual house that Marilyn stayed in as well.
Yep.
Yeah, extraordinary.
It's amazing that, well, of course Windsor Castle's going to be fine, but but you know, studios change so much. It's amazing that a lot of these things, like the house in which she stayed in, is actually still there and functioning. And but I guess I suppose it's England, so maybe
It's England. They
maybe
don't knock things
just,
down
like,
as much as
last
they do here.
a bit longer there.
Yeah.
I guess so. So maybe it's not impressive at all. What I find extraordinary about this film is that it's as a filmmaker, you think, oh, I can do this. It's possible. There are very minimal locations at best. It's a very small cast. You think, oh, this, I could make this. You could make this. It's not enormous in scale.
But you know what I love about, especially sort of more English-based films, that every small role is some amazing actor.
Right.
You know, I love
Right.
that when you see that. You don't see it as, you see it sometimes here, but you always feel like when I see an English film that every, you know, even like a tiny role is some incredible actor.
Amazing person.
Right. That has to be Harvey Weinstein a little bit, though,
Yeah,
because
a little.
Yeah.
he seems to have power just over everything. Basically. Even though it was more British-based, he was like, when he's involved,
He makes it happen.
But I think British actors have this sense of they will do even they'll do a small role.
Right.
It's not about being a star, it's about being an actor.
Yes.
And I think that's a different sensibility between British actors and oftentimes with American actors. They don't care if it's a tiny role, they're happy to do it.
It almost feels like it's a smaller community over there.
I think so too.
You know, whereas it's only. Well, I'd hate to say it happened when Friends made the Mega Millions, but it really wasn't until then that we started seeing our movie stars crossing over to TV, because television is really where actors make a lot of money now, whereas film, you know, there are a handful of actors who really make bank. And so, but with English actors, it always seems like they're willing to do a TV show, do a series, then go do a couple movies. Maybe go do some theater. Like there's no divide.
Yes.
Whereas here, people are like, I want to be a film actor, or I just do television, and you're like, whoa, wait a second, why not do it all?
Yeah,
exactly. And I mean, the actors that are portrayed in this, Laurence Olivier, Vivian Leigh, Sybil Thorne, I mean, they were great stage actors first. I mean, before I don't think they set out to be movie stars, even though they became movie stars. I think theatre was always their big base, and for Laurence Olivier, it always was his kind of foundation, theatre.
Right.
Beautiful.
I think, you know, another thing that we have to get to as well, for me, I didn't mention this, as much as I loved the London airport scene, I also thought it was so interesting that Simon Curtis was saying that he purposely added the beginning, as bookends to the movie, the opening and closing scene of musical performances, to remind people of just how big a star she is. And the fact that Michelle Williams actually executed that, her voice is all over the soundtrack. I mean, we were talking about this earlier with Midnight in Paris. Some movies, the music is almost like a character in itself, and this is one of those movies to me also.
For sure. It's fascinating that we're talking about how, you know, the people, actors, you know, take their pay cuts just to do because they're passionate about something, and the art is no different for the musicians either. They, it started out as, Alexander Desplat wrote a beautiful My Week with Marilyn theme. He wrote the My Marilyn theme, and he wasn't able to continue to score the whole film, so he brought in a friend of his to say, you know what, this guy is awesome, Conrad Pope, hire him up, he can finish the film for him. And Conrad was fascinated by the fact that it was a chance to deal with an iconic figure and all these wonderful inspirations, and of course for him, he thinks of the music at that time and the big band sounds and all those things that he could put in to give character to all these people, and that's sort of how he got on the project, came about, he finished it up, and did a beautiful, and had nothing but wonderful things to say about Michelle Williams and her ability to just sort of get in and sing.
I heard she worked with like a huge, top-notch team.
They had Lang Lang, the pianist, to do the theme for the whole thing. So they brought in his sensibility and amazement on this piano, and then they have Michelle, who actually came in like a singer, we, as actors and singers and things like that, you always want to be able to do everything, but that's a little bit intimidating, like a full orchestra sitting there and you're going to record Marilyn's songs that she's done and doing different arrangements and figuring it out, and the fact that she was comfortable enough with it, that it's multiple songs on the soundtrack that are her voice, it speaks volumes about her skill and her confidence and her commitment to the character. So nothing but respect for that, and the way that they flowed all the music through the film, it was a beautiful backdrop, just like all of the settings, just like all of the film set, all of it, for me, it all is sort of encapsulated in that moment when she got off the plane and it melted sort of away. That's how I felt. All the music, all the locations, all the energy of the film was just this beautiful, set, calm exploration into this moment in time that was just so exciting for this guy. Like, I can't imagine at 22, here you are, Colin, go. That was your first experience in film, and that's such a beautiful story to come back to and be able to see brought to life on there. So,
and you know what's funny about it too is you think there was also something that I felt was really interesting, that they said that you didn't have Twitter back then. Colin Clark was almost like the Twitter of Marilyn Monroe, because now you know what they're eating for lunch. You know where they're, having whatever, dinner, going out who's breaking up with who, who's writing who, whatever on Twitter. He almost acted like the Twitter of the film because this is a time period where she's probably the number one person you wish had a Twitter in life, and in 1956 that wasn't happening. But it's just, that's what makes it still interesting. Like people, they were saying, what's left to say about Marilyn Monroe? It shows
I like the fact that back then there was more mystery about people. To be honest, I hate the fact that we know every single.
Agree.
You know, I think we would not think of Marilyn as much as we think of Marilyn now, or any of these great stars, if we knew every little detail about their life.
Because we're always waiting. Like, what can they tell us?
The whole Hollywood system, that whole studio system, was to create these images, and I mean that's just been completely destroyed now.
Well, he called it was very controlled back then.
Yeah.
But I think maybe that's a good thing in some ways, and in others maybe not such a, you know, we want that instant gratification now. But she's somebody that you just wonder about. You didn't have that. You only heard things. And you know, we hope this is a true story because I think.
Well, I think it's not debated that he was definitely he was a third AD on the film, and I think the first book he wrote detailed the making of the film. But I think a lot of people are kind of wondering about the actual relationship he had with Marilyn. How much time did he really spend with her alone? How much? So I think, and that apparently a few people from that time are going, well, there's no way. He was kind of the water boy. He was no way he would have got into that position. But on the other hand, you know, maybe because he was, maybe, you know, I could also appreciate the fact that maybe Marilyn did gravitate to someone like that. So I think it's nice that we don't know, you know, is it true or not? But, you know, it still makes a beautiful story.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about that skinny dipping scene. Why didn't we get to see her naked?
Well,
what is the choice? No,
I see where you're going with this.
Here's somebody who's iconically represented for her figure. I mean, we're all a little bit curious, but the director chooses not to expose
I think that's why.
her. Is it because we've never seen it?
No, you know, that was a big issue though with Michelle, is that when she did try and gain weight, she gained it in the wrong ways. And like her face was coming out puffy rather than looking more like Marilyn, so they actually stopped her from gaining weight.
They padded her
And they ended
costume.
up padding her costumes.
I get that.
And so, I mean, while a lot of guys probably agree with you, like, why not just get Michelle Williams naked in that lake? But it probably wouldn't have worked because technically it was all padding and shadows under there.
Yeah, and I think that definitely would have taken us out as much as, like, for the most part, I know we mentioned, like, we were able to forget that she's not exactly as curvy or, you know, as woman as Marilyn Monroe was. But if we saw her naked, that's a very, like, natural, vulnerable, full-on state, and I'm like,
broken our given reality.
it would have put us in a different
I think
place.
there's enough suggestion of it not to have to have the whole thing.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, that when and I've done this on modeling shoots before, when you have to look like you're in a gorgeous lake and you're having a great whimsical day, and in reality, it was freezing. Their teeth were actually chattering so much that it got in the way of getting the shot. Because that's how cold they were, and they had just the right time frame to go in and get it. And she literally talked about that in an interview, like that was one of the hardest moments actually for her in life. And I've been there. I know how that feels, shooting bathing suits in February in New York City. I can totally sympathize with that.
Actors and models, I'm just like going,
it's not always so easy. And
And somebody holding your coat for you. You do it, and then you put the coat on. Then you do it again, you put the coat on.
right.
I'm a wimp when it comes to the cold. I could never do it.
That's commitment.
One of the trials and tribulations, but it's just so funny because you watch that scene and you believe it and you buy it, and meanwhile in real life they're like towel. But also what's funny is watching this movie. I've worked with an actress, I won't say her name, but the way they showed her with the drug part and the pills and the feeding of the pills and the way she was behind the scenes and very needy and all those things that, you know, you may not want to see about Marilyn. It's amazing how relatable. I actually knew an actress just like that today. And it's amazing how much I bought that part. And I do.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes you sympathize for her in a way. You
That
know, like,
line,
it
I
affects
think
you.
that, you know, the British guy, this kind of security.
Right.
That line when they said they like to keep her doped up.
Right.
She's easier
Yes.
to manage. I
That
thought
really
because she's
affected
their
me.
cash cow, and I
Right.
thought, wow, that says so much.
I mean,
really.
we got roped into the nostalgia and the fun pageantry of it and all that. But that side of it too, they did just enough, I think, to showcase it without making it sort of leave you feeling too sour about her. You know what I mean? But that's something that really opens your eyes too. Even though you've heard stories and you know these things, I think they portrayed that. They did a really good job of portraying that side of her too. And it's sad.
And it's sad how it still speaks in so many current.
And what about the
situations.
relationship with, obviously Paula Strasberg is portrayed in this movie as well. And basically, she was the wife of the famous Lee Strasberg and became, I guess, a mother figure to the real Marilyn. And on the set of this film, in the real film, clashed endlessly with Sir Laurence Olivier. So I thought it was really interesting the way they portrayed that relationship as well, and how Marilyn was so dependent on her.
Can you imagine the antics that entourage? You know how entourages in Hollywood go today.
Yeah.
Can you imagine she was representing New Hollywood at that point, and coming in there with the Brits, and them being very probably straight-laced. Let's get this take. And she's coming in there with her entourage.
And the method acting, which the British hated. Laurence Olivier hated that. I mean, the British attitude was like, you just read the lines, you just do it. Not about finding this truth and, I think actually just one of the lines that I loved was, I just wrote it down, Laurence Olivier says, acting is all about truth, and if you can fake that, you'll have a jolly good career.
It was a clash of ideologies.
Yes.
Old school and at the time new school, not anymore. Just coming together and really butting heads.
Still that clash though. I think in British actors, you even talk to British actors now, like Anthony Hopkins and that, they're very much about you just go in and do the job.
Yeah.
Right.
Whereas American actors still have this thing of like they live it, they have to be it.
But there's even additional schools of thought who have gone beyond that, who see Lee Strasberg as something old, and the group theater is. I mean, we appreciate it, and I know many actors who do appreciate the group theater and all the different methods that came out of that. But there are acting teachers and. You can't even really. A lot of them don't like to call them methods, but that have moved beyond that and have kind of just gone to thought-based things.
Right.
I could get into a whole thing about it, but it's
Well, actually, Michelle,
like
I asked her whether she felt more akin to the method style of acting,
I'd love to know.
or the Laurence Olivier style of acting, and she sort of said honestly she feels that she's both.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, probably what you're saying.
It depends on the project.
Yeah, she says she does relate a lot to the whole the method ideology of really getting into a character, but she says she feels like that depending on the part, she can do both. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
A lot of those, a lot of the different ideologies that came out of the group theater at the time were almost like cults.
Right.
And it's dangerous to use that word, but like Uda and Lee did Stella and Lee did not like each other at all. I think when Lee died, Stella was like, yeah, that happened. And he's like done such destruction to acting. And so like they really clung. A lot of actors like sometimes really hold on to those methods and like, this is what I do and that's it. And they're like, whoa.
But what was
I respect
cool?
that, but I'm gonna do my thing.
What was cool though about the film too, with that tension that constantly existed throughout the film, to see him watching the dailies of her, and that moment, and she's in the dress just dancing and doing her part, and he has the realization that whatever it is, it's still movie magic, and it works.
And I think they acknowledge, even like the Sybil Thorndike character acknowledges that they might be in there, they might have this much more theatery approach to acting, but Marilyn's approach was so natural, especially when she did get it right, as they said. She was perfect, and she was perfect for the camera. Whereas, I think Laurence Olivier often felt that he was sometimes came, and I think in this particular film, in the real film, he does come off stilted, whereas Marilyn did come off as this beautiful, free, natural to the camera, and I think that's what happened.
And that can be frustrating to people in the business because as diva, as we call it today, diva, as you are, or whatever issues you may create, if you have it, not many people have it, and she had it, and so she put people through hoops. Probably it's based on what we saw, and she was able to get away with things because, as you said, that was my. The bookends, the London airport scene, and the dancing scene in the middle, because it almost like made everyone stop. And it was just like that, boom, like this is Marilyn, this is how she makes magic, this is why she's the way she is. And to me, I totally agree, that was just like, you saw the movie magic happening again. They almost recreated that movie magic, and that's why I say movie within a movie. You know, I think that was just a really important scene too. And even the way he says, like when she's amazing. Like, you know.
Do you think her behavior would be acceptable on set today?
I think it'd be a lot more difficult.
I see it. No, but I see it today. That's why I'm saying I can relate
with
to
big
it.
budgets and that, I think they'd be a lot tougher, wouldn't they?
You know, it's amazing. I see it. And I think there are more Marilyns today, and it's only grown. She started it. I've seen it firsthand. I felt like I was watching some people I know in Hollywood. I felt like I was watching them, and that's what made me also feel that this was really realistic. Like, oh, this was happening even then. So
you could hold a production up for 3 days, like she would. Wow, that amazes me.
Even reality stars. I can't say which
reality
one.
stars maybe,
but a reality star, I know someone who worked on the set of a reality star, and she would stop filming, and they'd be on call and waiting to go back, which is amazing.
You know, now we have fines in place, and if you don't show up on set, you're fined. Really? And if your behavior is bad, a production needs to take out insurance on you. And so
because often actors, if they're a risk, they don't get
work.
work.
So they don't get work anymore. So there are things in place so that doesn't happen, because you can't. You know, Charlie Sheen's a perfect example of that. Look at all of those people who had jobs and were just kind of sitting there waiting, going, well, are you going to do it? Like, I got to feed my kids, because there are line producers and grips and everybody who needs to work, and it's unfair.
So, of course, you know, there's so many parts about the movie, but let's just quickly talk about, before we sign off here, the nominations. Obviously, Michelle Williams, Kenneth Branagh. You know, I think it's so amazing for me. I really had a real come around to Michelle Williams, because I really, at first, I really was not sure that she could do this. And then when I saw it, I realized why she's getting so much buzz. And I think it's amazing for me to think about the fact that she was going to quit acting altogether. And then, you know, with everything going on with Heath Ledger and all, and then Blue Valentine and this, My Week with Marilyn. I mean, I couldn't be more excited for her. I think this is kind of a shining moment for her. Of course, we have things to say about her red carpet fashion, but certainly, you know, I'm rooting for her big time. I think, you know, my favorite scenes of the movie, of course, now that my bookends, my London airport scene, and of course that show-stopping moment. But what are your final thoughts? The nominations? Any great quotes? Any last My Week with Marilyn?
Well, I mean, I think she does an amazing job, but she's got some really tough competition in that category, unfortunately. Really tough. So I think she's going to be a bit of a long shot, to be honest, to take this out. I think so. When you're up against Meryl Streep and Viola Davis.
Love Viola Davis.
I mean, that's what I think was nice, at least with the Globes, that they could split it. She still got an award, and Meryl got an award. But I think with the Oscars, I don't think it's, unfortunately. Yeah.
Nonetheless, I'm glad she's getting recognized, and it's a great year for her. Either way. What about Kenneth Branagh? What do you think?
Again, brilliant, but I think everyone's kind of predicting it's a Christopher Plummer here, you know. I think, you know, his role in Beginners is extraordinary, and I think it's going to be a tough one as well.
Job. It's one of those situations where it definitely is an honor to be nominated, because they definitely deserve to be nominated.
And I think both of them are like that. I think Kenneth Branagh and Michelle Williams are just so thrilled to be in that group. I think it's not about winning.
It's all, and they made magic. And
they made movie magic, and as Simon Curtis said, I hope you like it, and we like it.
Yes, exactly.
My Week with Marilyn. Well, ladies, thank you so much. We are closing things out here at the Kari Feinstein Oscar Style Lounge. Big round of applause.
2012.
And I'd like to thank Katherine, Bethany, Courtney, and I'm Jacke Miranne. And let's give a buzz you later, how about, for our last show here. Buzz you later.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.